Hey everybody, it is Dean Z speaking to you from room 138 in Hutchins Hall. I took a class here and I don't remember what it is. So that's something, if you go to law school and wait long enough, you will forget some of your classes. So that happened to me. Anyway, it's a nice room. So glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Today I want to talk about Reddit. I know, what am I doing? That's crazy. But no, I want to talk about Reddit because it is, I know if you are watching this, you are presumptively someone who wants to learn more about the law school admissions process. And one very common resource for people is Reddit. So I think a lot of people in my line of work some of them really love Reddit and do Ask Me Anythings, AMAs. See, I'm hip, I know. And I don't do that. Most people I know really hate Reddit. And so I was just sort of curious, what are the pros and the cons of Reddit? So I wanted to talk about that. And also give you some ideas at the end for other possible resources if you want to know more, but Reddit is not your jam. Okay, so every year when we enroll a class, I send them a little survey about the admissions process to get ideas for the future. And one question I always ask is what resources did you use to help you prepare for law school? And Reddit is a very common answer. So from last year's survey, more than 200 people took that survey and more than 60 said Reddit was a resource. So if you just did that, you'd be like, wow, Reddit is the thing, more than a quarter of the people using it. But you need to know some of the pros and cons of it. So I think this one sums it up well, this feedback. Reddit is awesome, but you have to be careful. That's everything, right? It's got information, but there are downsides. So what are the downsides and what's the information? Well, from what I can gather, the thing that people most love about Reddit is that it gives you lots of information about the timelines of the admissions process. I think it also talks about individual schools in a way that may be useful. And then it is also a community. I think that's great, right? Applying to law school is a big deal. It takes up a lot of your mental energy and a lot of your time, so it's great to have this community of like-minded individuals who are there to support you. However, I get the impression that sometimes they're not that supportive. So I think that's the big red flag. So I'm gonna read you some more comments because I thought they were very edifying. This one is this is a lot. I thought I found Reddit helpful, but looking back, I'm pretty sure it was responsible for the destruction of my mental health from last summer through this past spring. That's a lot. Of course, applicants won't listen to a law school warning them against overuse of this website. Yet here I am. But perhaps we could do more to broadcast a student perspective on how to have a healthy relationship with them throughout the application process. I thought that was a very interesting piece of feedback, and that was part of what made me want to do this. So let's read on though, other ones. Reddit was really helpful, but with the caveat that it was also extremely stressful. Not sure if it was a net benefit. Reddit, except it can also be hurtful, so beware. Reddit was helpful in assessing the overall shape of the cycle, but an otherwise negative influence. Here's another intense one. Reddit is the most destructive and helpful resource I used. I pored over past and current students' posts, and they were extremely helpful. Some admissions members from other schools had AMAs on there that were really helpful. That said, I still wish I'd never joined the law school admissions Reddit because it destroyed my mental health while waiting for decisions. And then this one is also good. I use Reddit on occasion, though the advice and perspectives found there were a bit of a mixed bag in terms of quality and accuracy. Someone else also says, I'm not sure I would suggest Reddit to anybody, even though they liked it. Too much noise, not enough signal. Okay, what does all this add up to? I would say it's worth checking it out, but you really have to self-assess and know your own tendency or capacity for being sucked into an online atmosphere and go in knowing that lots of other people before you have found it a stressful place. Check it out and just monitor yourself. Do not spend hours and hours on Reddit. Do not maybe look at it every day. Nothing's going to change on a daily basis. And always be thinking critically when you're reading information. So I think the thing that most enrages some of my colleagues is applicants or whoever it is on there saying with great confidence, like, this is what school X is doing. And it's completely untrue. And if you called school X, they'd be able to say, no, we're not doing that. So think critically. And if there is a claim that seems very surprising about a given school, first take it with a grain of salt. Then, if it's something that is relevant to you, I would call the school or reach out to the school and ask, hey, is this correct, or how should I approach this? And get some good information. Then if you are an extremely community-minded person, you could get on Reddit and maybe give a little correction. I don't know if that's worth it. I don't know how people react to that on Reddit. I should say at this time, I'm very unfamiliar with Reddit when it comes to the admission stuff. Seems like this is my mental health approach, just does not seem like something that's going to be great for me. And I do have a bunch of other people who work here who may check it out, and they tell me if they think there's something on there that I really need to know. But so that's great. It's monitored. I'm moderated through other people. So that's another possible approach, though. If you have a friend who's going through this process who is maybe into Reddit and like not as susceptible as you are, if you feel like you might be susceptible, have them just tell you the good takeaways, right? So I guess I would just look into it, and if you find it helpful, great. But just be aware that there's this, these comments that I read to you, they are very par for the course. Like every year, I see that exact same kind of feedback about Reddit. So it wasn't just, 4 people in 1 year. This is very, very common. I will also say that I was recently listening to a panel of pre-law advisors who said that that they did a survey of their students, and they said, Reddit is the second most popular resource for law school applicants after U.S. News. So again, like that, that does suggest that there is a benefit to it, hidden in there. But I think you just got to be careful and look at it from some distance. All the pre-law advisors on this panel, by the way, also recommended against being on Reddit. And one of them said, I can't think of a student in the last 10 years who has ever been happy about something they saw on Reddit. And they also said, we often have to talk students down who are anxious about inaccurate Reddit info. But I feel like that's not necessarily a reason not to be on there if you find it useful in other ways. It's just take it all, in stride. Okay. I think that's all I have to say, and now I'm just repeating myself. So I wanted to end up, though, by giving you some other resources that our students had recommended in this survey as alternatives to Reddit if, that's not your jam, or if you just want everything you can get your hands on. So other possible resources are consultant blogs. Mike Spivey has one, and he got a specific shout out from a number of people who were answering. And then there was another one called, these are 2 YouTube series called Legal Eagle and Aspiring Boss. You should know, by the way, I have not looked at any of these. I know Spivey's stuff, but none of these others I've not reviewed them, so I'm not telling you they're great. I'm just saying our students referred to them. There's a place called S. Montgomery Consulting that one of the students mentioned. For LSAT prep, they mentioned Khan Academy, but that's not really no one's using Reddit for LSAT prep, I trust, so I don't think that's quite on point. Something called LSAC Law Admissions Unlocked, which I feel like I should know about, but it's news to me. And then 7Sage. If you're military, there's something called Service to School that seems extremely helpful. And then the last one would be Law School Data, LS Data, although that also seems to be subject to many of the same criticisms that Reddit gets. So I'm not sure if that is any advantage over Reddit if you find Reddit troubling. All right, well, Redditors, come at me, right? I hope that was useful, though, for those of you who are considering where to get your law school information. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So now for the portion of our program where we talk about something law-related. Today I want to talk about a phrase called Nota Bene, and the reason I'm bringing this one is that someone I work with, who is not a lawyer, said he sees people use it, he doesn't know how to pronounce it, he doesn't know what it means, and he wanted me to explain it. So nota is N-O-T-A, bene is B-E-N-E, it's Latin, and it means literally note well. It basically means pay attention to this. And lawyers like to use it a lot. They usually abbreviate it N-B, colon, and then you say something. I feel like I use it a lot. I think there's at least one piece of correspondence we set out that has N-B in it. And I'm just so saturated in this stuff, it didn't occur to me till this guy asked that was something that was not immediately understood by everybody who hasn't yet been to law school. So silly, Dean Z. But yeah, so nota bene. I love it. I think it's so useful. Hope you enjoyed it too. All right. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening. Please send us your questions. Gotten some good ones. I'm compiling a bunch that I want to do a quick Q&A, so please keep bringing them in. So send us an email to law.jd.admissions@umich.edu or put it in the comments below. As always, thanks to my partner in crime, Dustin Johnson, without whom none of this would be possible. And wherever you go, go blue.